Constant change is the new normal for most organizations. There are big changes like mergers, swapping CEOs, shuttering divisions, expansions, and layoffs. Then there are changes that seem small, like changing your office water service or the version of Outlook you are running, that turn into very large disruptions for those involved. You try to effectively communicate these changes, but sometimes, no matter how hard you try, the message just doesn't get through, and you are left with angry and confused employees. It can be tempting to throw your hands up in the air and declare defeat, and spend most of your rides home cursing, complaining staff. But don't give up. On this, our final episode of the first season of the Internal Comms Procast, we talk to internal communications influencer and educator, Rachel Miller of All Things I See, about the best ways to communicate change. Rachel will tell you why it matters and how you can set yourself up for success.
For me, having good, effective change comms means really understanding your organisation, understanding what makes your employees tick, understanding what's unique about your culture, and particularly in a change comm situation, your channels need to be working super hard for you. So you need to know where a single source of truth is.
The Internal Comms Procast is sponsored by Circle. Circle's content manager brings all your stories, events, videos, letters, and media mentions into one sortable, searchable content library. Then Circle's AI creates automatically personalized content experiences for your staff on web, email, app, intranet, and mobile. Get more out of your content. Request a demo today at circle.com. That's CERKL.com. Circle, weird spelling, awesome engagement. Welcome to the Internal Comms Procast. I am your host, Barry Williams. When we began planning this season, we dreamed that we would make it onto the schedule of this very busy business owner. She is one of the biggest thought leaders in internal comms today and has amassed a loving following with her helpful blog and thoughtful approach to internal comms.
Hello, I'm Rachel Miller. I'm the director of All Things I See, and I'm based over in London in the UK. I started my career as a journalist back in 1999 and discovered the world of internal comms in 2003 by using search engines, actually. I was looking for a new job and didn't know what to do, and I looked on read.co.uk and monster.co.uk, which was how you got a job back in 2003. And I typed in everything I liked doing, which was writing, editing, researching, and discovered the world of internal communication. So completely by accident, this whole world appeared to me, and I've been working in internal comms since 2003.
So in 2003, what appealed to you about internal communications that made you make that jump from journalism?
It was everything that I enjoyed doing and lots of things that I didn't know how to do. So I'd been interviewing and writing and editing to sell newspapers. But the idea of learning about organisational culture and learning about communicating in multiple languages with hard to reach employees, my very first job was for Vistion, which is an automotive company who spun off from Ford. So just looking at that job description on the website, I thought, gosh, I don't know lots of those things. And I was really open to learning and thought, I'll give it a go. I'll apply all the things that I love as a journalist, and then this whole other side that I have no idea how to do. I was just really open to learn and loved it, absolutely loved it, and got the passion for internal comms ignited from my very first internal comms job.
After her work with Vistion, Rachel went on to do in-house corporate comms for Sequel Group, Visa, Two Blinds, London Overground, and Novartis. During her role with Novartis, she co-founded the IC Crowd. She began her own consultancy, All Things I See, in 2013, and has been helping communicators succeed ever since. Helping effectively communicate change is one of Rachel's passions. You may be tempted to save her tips for a very rainy day, but Rachel says effective change communications is something you should use all of the time.
So what common business changes call for a more strategic approach to communications?
Every single business change. I think, change is the only constant and the only certainty in our organizations. And I think if you have a strategic approach, which to me, I think that's having a plan. We get locked into tactical, reactive internal comms very, very quickly unless you understand the importance of internal comms as an organisation and invest in it, and therefore invest in your internal comms practitioners who understand the importance of saying no and of taking a measured, planned, structured approach to your internal comms. So having that strategic thinking is really important. If not, you'll be doing lots and lots of doing and not a lot of thinking about why do we do things in that certain way. So that strategic approach is really important.
What are the fundamental roles of effective change communications?
You need to be able to listen. For me, having good, effective change comms means really understanding your organisation, understanding what makes your employees tick, understanding what's unique about your culture, and particularly in a change comm situation, your channels need to be working super hard for you. So you need to know where a single source of truth is. You need to know, if you're relying on line managers, for example, that they are trained, that they understand the importance and criticality of their role to communicate change. So the fundamental rules for me are know how internal communication does or doesn't happen in your organisation, and do that in peacetime. Do that when you're not up against it in a change comms situation. So truly understand how internal comms does or doesn't flow in your organisation. And then when you're in a change comms scenario, you can hit the ground running because you know what good looks like, you know what works and what doesn't work, and what you need to adjust as you go along.
So which stakeholders should be involved in the process of communicating change?
So I think mindset for me always is communicating with employees, not to them. So when I hear people say, we need to communicate change to employees, I'm like, no, you need to communicate with them and for them, and you're looking to involve them. So when I'm looking at effective change communication, you and involving stakeholders, you can't forget employees. You need to check for understanding. So you need to not just have a message that you're sending out to employees, to your front line, for example, about a big change. You need to ensure those channels are open. You've got two-way effective flows of communication. So your stakeholder mapping and your plan for change comms, you have to be tapped into employee networks or works councils or eyes and ears group. Wherever there are cross-functional groups of employees in your organisation, you need to ensure you know what their voices are saying, know what their views are, and just to map your own internal network really well. Who are the influencers? Who are the loudest voices? It's not just about senior managers communicating change. It's a bottom-up and top-down approach. You need both for effective change comms to happen.
Are there any voices that are more helpful than others in this process?
I think knowing who your internal influencers are is really important. So who is it employees listen to? Is it their line managers? Is it their union representatives? Is it the administrative staff? Where are those voices? That's really important, and that will vary for each organisation. So in our roles as internal comms pros, it's mapping your stakeholders really, really well to understand where those hubs and spokes are within your network, within your organisation.
Up next on the Internal Comms Procast, how do you communicate change that isn't necessarily good news for the employees? Rachel Miller has tips you can use. Internal Comms Pro is proud to present the Rise and Shine series, coming to a city near you. Rise and Shine gives you access to what's hot and brewing in the internal comms world. Each event, a featured speaker will talk about the most current strategies, best practices, latest trends, and tools that drive performance. Then an expert panel will share actual work products and their secrets on how they applied the speaker's topic in their own organizations. Rise and Shine is free to attend, but spots are limited. See where we are going to be next and join the fun for free at internalcommspro.com/shine. Not every change communication can be sunshine and roses or raises and bonuses. Wouldn't we all love to be Oprah and get to make it rain good news? Sometimes you have to deliver bad news. Very bad news, like a layoff or closing.
What advice can you offer for communicating a change that isn't beneficial to employees, like a layoff?
I think when you're communicating change that isn't beneficial, then the need for transparency and authenticity and honesty is incredibly important. So you have opportunities there to express empathy through the language that you use, for example. So that's not saying headcount and numbers. We're talking about people, and you're being very honest and having integrity through your messaging, which shows that you are being empathetic, that you are admitting this is a tough decision that we're making, and not making false promises. So what people are looking for in change comms particularly is clarity and certainty. And what I try to give is certainty of communication, even if it's not certainty of content. In other words, when it's a difficult scenario and you're having layoffs or redundancies, that you commit to keeping people updated. You don't make false promises. It's really critical.
When it comes to communicating change, where do people often stumble?
I think people often stumble when communicating change by being vague and deliberately vague, where they try and hide behind really ridiculous statements or vague statements that don't give that certainty and that clarity that employees are looking for. And they just cause more problems. So if you're trying to not address the elephant in the room, it doesn't mean that employees aren't talking about it. So when there is an issue and they're waiting for the number of people affected or the date when you're going to make the cuts, they're looking for that certainty. The stumbling block for me that I see time and time again is people hiding behind vagueness and talking about in quarter one we'll do X or quarter three we'll do Y. And it's not enough. People want certainty because they might want to get married or move house or make life-changing decisions. And they're looking for that, should I wait and find out or should I just leave, for example? So I think that's one of the biggest stumbling blocks, certainly is being deliberately vague, I would call it.
If you're looking down the barrel of a major organizational change, it can seem impossible to get it organized. Rachel says the key is to focus on what is known and go from there.
A piece of advice that I give over and over and over again is about looking for the knowns. So when you're communicating change, it feels like you have everything that is unknown. So what I encourage my clients to do is get a piece of paper or Word document, map it out. What are our known knowns and what are our known unknowns? And that things like, what is it that you will continue to live past the change? That might be your vision, your values. It might be your leadership team, for example. It might be, ways of working. And then your known unknowns are normally what your employees really want, like dates, like numbers. So top tip for me when you're communicating change and it feels like, oh my goodness, I don't know where to start. Get a piece of paper, split it down the middle, my known knowns, my known unknowns, and just give yourself some clarity. Then you can create a task list and know what to address first.
So, with a little over 15 years of experience in the industry, what do you think is the biggest challenge facing internal communicators today?
I think it's keeping up. I think the fundamental principles of internal comms haven't changed for years, for decades, but I think keeping up with the latest trends, with technology, and ensuring that you stay relevant is really important. I think in that 15 years career that I've had within internal comms, what I do today versus what I did back in 2003 is very different. So I think the biggest challenge we have is how do you keep up? How do you keep current? How do you keep your skills fresh? Forever listening to podcasts as much as I can to just absorb information while I'm out and about doing other things. You're spoiled for choice within internal comms. There's lots of great people showing lots of excellent content for free online.
Rachel knows that being an internal communicator can be a lonely endeavor. Finding the right community can help. That's why she co-founded the IC Crowd to connect communicators with practical advice.
The IC Crowd is a global community for internal communicators. It was set up by me, my friends Jenny Field and Dana Leeson, when all three of us were working in-house at different companies back in 2012. And it's the IC Crowd on Twitter and theiccrowd.com. And it's just an independent free network where people can tweet us and ask questions. So this morning even we've had a couple of questions in where people are stuck. They're in very visible roles. They can't be seen to ask for help. So they ask a question to the IC Crowd. We retweet it and then communicators from around the world give their view, give their advice, and then we share it on.
We want to thank Rachel for sharing her thoughtful insights with us. For our US listeners, Rachel will be in the States in May to deliver the keynote address at the PRSA Employee Comms Conference in Phoenix.
Very excited about coming to PRSA in Phoenix in May. I've not been to the US since 2003, so it's been a very, very long time, so very much looking forward to being an opening keynote there.
For more of Rachel's work, visit her site, allthingsic.com. She has more than 1,200 blogs, helpful resources, and other training opportunities.
You can access my ideas and my training wherever you are in the world. I'm constantly running masterclasses. They are all in-house, all in person in London. However, this year I'm going to be launching online masterclasses. So wherever you are in the world, you'll be able to tap into all things I see and tap into resources and information and training to help you do your job when you need it.
We are giving away 4 copies of Rachel's beautiful and functional workbook to help you get your IC house in order. Enter to win on our site, internalcommspro.com/podcast. Just look for this episode's page and enter to win. Best of luck! Thank you for listening to this episode of the Internal Comms Procast. That's a wrap on our first season. Thank you for sharing your commutes, dog walks, and treadmill time with us. We really appreciate it. We'll be back in May with our second season, but we may pop in your feed from time to time with a few mini episodes during the break. What can we say? We're going to miss you. Internal Comms Procast is produced by Super Awesome Media. Our executive producer is Rachel Foles. Connor Sweeney is our engineer. Kelsey Rizzuto is our associate producer. And Cherish Cardwell is our digital media specialist. Our theme music is Please Listen Carefully by Jazzer via the Free Music Archive. Show notes and more are available at internalcommspro.com. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook at Internal Comm Pro. Thank you for listening.